So today I'm going to be assembling the Skyfort 2 nice little swing set play place thing. I went ahead and opened up box 3, I believe. Nope, box 2. And the reason I opened it up first is because the hardware's in it and the manual. So to save you guys time, the first step isn't in that box. It's in box 1. So I guess it makes sense. And it might be somewhere in the manual, I just didn't see it. So open up box 1 first, and I guess it goes in order. Inside of each box is actually a detailed inventory list of what's in each box, so it'll save you a lot of time. So I'm gonna try to start with that and just give you guys helpful tips as it goes on. So to save you time, there's only one H76 ladder rung in that entire box 1. So I'm gonna take a look and see if it's in box 3 or 2, and there's none in this one. So I guess it's in box 4. After looking all the way under there and all the way under there, they're underneath all the way on the bottom of box 4, underneath all of these pre-built, I guess, roof pieces. That's where your H76s are. So I was wasting a lot of time trying to look for things, so I went ahead and just laid these out. And I went ahead and got all the packing lists for every box, kept it together, and then separated everything out. So these are all going to be roof or wall panels that are already made. Anything that looked near 3x3, 4x4, whatever I put there. This is going to end up being everything that was in box 3. And I ended up trying to separate it out in order to make it quicker. This is the M's, starting with the lower number, going up to the higher numbers. Everything that's over here is box 1 up on the top, and over here on the left with that small division, and then all this is box 2. So you can see I did the same thing, just trying to keep things in order to where hopefully it's going to speed things up a lot. So still have one more box over there I've got to figure out where to put it, but it made it so much easier to find these 2 pieces here that were in 2 other boxes. So I think I opened every box to find enough to build this one piece, just the ladders. So it made it so much easier to find these pieces, having them out. So I'm making sure on this to have the bottom part here, I have every one of the boards flipped to where the numbers are on the back where they'll never be seen. And I'm starting them over here, and I'm just gonna pick up this side, put them on there, get everything square. And I went ahead and followed their pattern of kind of intermingling here. That way they'll have steps to go up, and we'll screw all of it together. The L1 piece to go along and make sure that everything is flush. And when you get to the part where you're doing the rocks, do make sure to pay attention. It has an arrow, and the arrow needs to be pointing up when you mount them. So on the monkey bars, nothing really out of the ordinary. The only thing I did notice is there are little holes for drainage here. So just make sure they're all flipped down. That way they'll drain out the water. And I'm leaving these kind of loose because I'm sure you'll have to move that a little bit to get everything to connect. And then on our green pieces, just make sure you use the right size bolts. And I'm gonna go with the piece that's stamped out going out on it as well. When you're doing the ladder to get up on the monkey bars, there are some of the lock sets have a larger diameter, and they're to go over, or whatever you call these things, I can't remember. But you're supposed to put those in, and then the smaller ones will go in the bolts. They go in here, and then also go on the other side of here. So the ones that it says 8 are gonna be these guys and these guys, and the ones that are 4 are these. So as far as the swing, the biggest thing I can see that you can do, messing up wise, is the seat. The coarse part is the top of it, so just make sure where the feet would be at the bottom and the handles at the top. And on the little window guys here, the longer screws, there's 40 of those, are for every single hole except for the bottom corners. And the reason for that is the cut is just so small, you can screw all the way through it. So just don't go overboard and accidentally put in the wrong ones. So when you get to this part, I just ensured by taking the T40 Allen wrenches they send, those bolt holes are lined up. I'm about to put the 4 screws in here, and of course the other screws are up at the top. Since it is a true tongue and groove, make sure that everything fits snugly in. You can use a rubber hammer if you need to beat it in. I'm about to get a rubber hammer, see if we'll go in anymore. So on the crow's nest piece here, you put screws in every plank except for the outside of the last one. And you can see we're flush here, but we hang over on the side where the screws aren't. And on this step, you just want to make sure that you do put this on the correct plank. They recommend the 5th plank and 2 screws from the top. And the reason that you do put it this direction, because I was just thinking any usual framing, you would have it going up and down instead of the way it is now, is because this is going to end up laying across the board for the swing set. So that's the reason it's like that. And I just noticed last night when I was looking, because it started raining here a little, this video didn't show up for some reason. So these things have been terribly bad about cross-threading, and I could not get these to go straight. You can see that gap that's between there. So I'm going to end up eventually switching those out to some bolts to where I can get them tight. Those are the only 2 that I just could not get to work at all. But that was on that step. But now to the beginning of the frame for the main fort part. So on here, the biggest thing, just make sure you don't cross-thread those bolts, of course, but making sure that the pilot holes are correct. And you can see there's 2 that are down here. And it shows you on the instructions to have them up or down depending on which piece it is. But it's all coming together. So when you get to this step here, just make sure those are lined up well. And on this one, measure from the top and make sure that hole's 1 3/4 inches and you don't put the wrong hole at the bottom. Before I got too far, I was gonna let you guys know, I put the piece here though showing you the measurements on the wrong side. It should be on this side, because if not, your floor won't fit in over there. So sorry I skipped a few steps, but it's been off and on raining kind of bad. So just want to show you guys something, hopefully it'll save you some time. This piece right here was very terribly labeled, and I couldn't really tell which one it was, and I couldn't get it to fit no matter what. So just found out it was the wrong piece because I found the other one. But about to switch that out. Maybe it'll save you guys a little bit of time, but it's about to pour down rain again, so I'm gonna try to hurry. So it's kind of sad the way that they have it stamped is on the top, but this M16 piece, it kind of goes around this 2x4 to where it's flat on the 4x4, and I went ahead and fitted everything before I actually wanted to screw it in, just to make sure, but that's the way that goes. And the seats, they go together very easily, so nothing too hard on this step. So before this next step where you put the braces in, you want to make sure that you've got all 4 sides level. So I ended up having to put a few little shims underneath 3 of the corners, but should be good to go to put them in. So it didn't mention pre-drilling holes on all these braces, but none of mine actually had holes. I don't know if they were supposed to be pre-drilled or not. I went ahead and drilled them because I just didn't want the wood to break open. But that's got all the braces installed, and this thing's getting a lot more sturdy. The only thing on the step of putting the floor down is just make sure that you have this center beam, all of the planks lined up correctly. I'd already put down all the screws here, there, and there, luckily just on the first plank. But because of where it's located under here, off to the side of this piece, it's off center just a little bit. So just watch that. So make sure on this little guy that you've got it flush here. When you're putting these pieces on here, it's important to know where the holes go. The instructions were a little unclear to me. Make sure that you have this hole that's pre-drilled equidistant in height to that hole over there. So that's got that. And that also puts the pre-drilled holes. There's going to be one there and the two up at the top. So sorry it got so dark. My video really didn't show much. So now we're on past a couple other steps, but wanted to get up here on the ladder and show you guys. Make sure that you have this sticking out, of course, and the orientation is outward on both sides, and it's long ways. So depending on how you have these boards, where this piece ends up being, and I'm very sad mine's actually split right there, but the way it's going to go in, it shouldn't really make a difference. The orientation of this, it's really important where they say where the holes need to be and all that stuff, depending on which way these two boards go. So just pay close attention to the drawings. And on this one, make sure the holes are up, I believe is the way it is. So here's a view from the back, if it helps you guys. And I'll get down to show you a view of the other ones. And they want you to go ahead and put in these. And I guess the reason for that is once you put this board in, it would have been really hard to put those in. So here's a view from the back. Hopefully it'll help you guys out a little bit, figuring out the way it is. And if you're looking at the orientation of this and you think it's backwards, it is right now. I'm gonna rotate it around if I can ever find somebody to help me rotate it. I was kind of going by the way the directions showed it on all the steps, and this is actually rotated the wrong way. So hopefully I can get one person to help me rotate it, and if not, I'll use some jacks and other things and one little step at a time get it over. But this is very possible for one person to do, because so far it's just been me working on it. But here's kind of a walk through the frame, just to give you an idea. So we just reached that kind of frustrating part here. H28 up here, you would think that they would stamp these things to where you don't see the stamp. So I had this piece mounted the other way, so it was flipped, and that made this piece be a little bit too far. So now I've made a hole, which I can just get some wood filler and we'll be fine. But the only reason it really matters is it showed that you connected this piece to a piece of wood. And I was like, man, that's over here, not over where I just put it. So just make sure you do have that facing the right way. And on this H10 and H11, it's the same way. It's kind of outward, where you can see where everything's at. And the holes, the pilot holes, are facing outward as well. So far all the rest of these steps have been going super smooth. About to put the rest of the wood up top on the roof to where I can actually build the top of the roof. But everything else has been going pretty good. Just do a little walk through. The windows is a little bit easier to bring them to the outside and then push in and then secure them, but weren't hard to put in at all. Everything's looking good though. And just make sure when you're putting this to put an inch between here and 1 3/8 inches from the top. Now over to this side, it's kind of hard to see for the sun, but make sure that you have the holes up at the top whenever you're putting in the top piece up there. So to get the triangle piece, what I ended up doing is going through this hole. I held it here, started one screw, then went to the front to make sure that it was lined up level, and now I'm going to get the rest from the back. And then to get our piece here, you can actually just take your phone, use it kind of as a way to see if you're centered or not, and get everything lined up the way you want it to be. So to get this piece up here to where I could climb up there by myself, I just kind of hung it on the groove underneath. Save you guys the trouble in case you might have did the same thing I did. I put this board on the inside instead of the outside. Sorry, I got hiccups. Which kept it from mating up top. So I'm about to take that board out and switch it up to the other side. So getting the little crow's nest thing on is a little bit of pain by yourself. The brackets will end up lining up, but I ended up having to just use one arm pushing in on that to get everything to line up. And I've got everything pretty level, so I'm not really sure why it was a little bit hard to get in, but it eventually went in. But it's starting to shape up. So I'm 6'3", and getting up in the little hole is pretty difficult. But I got all the rails up and everything. This step went pretty easily as well. So just giving an inside look at this. This is the way these brackets will go. And about to put up the little telescope. It's gonna do a final overview of everything. Kind of happy with the location of it. When she comes home, she'll be able to see it whenever she starts school. I was gonna show you what all was left. So, decent amount of spares that they're sent. It's 1 to 2 of almost everything. I've still got to end up putting the little plate on, which wasn't a big deal, so I just left it off. And then I've also got to put the rest of the anchors in the ground, and that's all that's left. A lot of leaves blew in. It was kind of crazy. But I had separated everything out, tables for boxes, and after finally thinking about everything, knowing what it's like to build it now, I would recommend just putting everything in alphabetical order. That way, as soon as you see I need N1, you can immediately just go in alphabetical order, find it, and be so much quicker. So if you got the space to do that, don't worry about the box numbers. Just go ahead and put everything in alphabetical and numerical order, and I think it'll be much faster. Same thing with the bolts, accessories. I think it'd be better to go ahead and put that in there. But everything went well. Just glad for it to be over. But if you have any questions, you can shoot them in the comments. I might be pretty slow responding. We own an audio company. We've got a lot of shows and also teach nursing. So just let us know. And I'm sure people are going to ask how long it took. An estimate would probably be, by myself, it was about 16 hours, somewhere around like that. And it was very disrupted because a lot of rain, a lot of things unforeseen that made me have to stop. So it took a few days of just doing an hour at a time, but it's done and it is here.
You like it?
Yeah, girl.
You do.
You'll be climbing it soon.
Say bye-bye, Dada. Say see you in just a little while.
Bye, baby girl.
Say love you.
Love you, baby girl. What you think, girl? You like it? Yeah.
Good Phoebe. Good girl. No, we can't get down there. Phoebe girl.
You like the swing set, Phoebes?
Oh, Piper thinks it's for her. She was walking all on that.
No. So just have to stake it is the only thing I've got left to do, but everything ended up coming together.
Yay, big girl, yay.